All right, should be going. All right, welcome everyone. I'm Brandi Smith with Perfect 10 Physical Therapy and Performance Training, Perfect 10 PT Academy, online courses for parents, coaches, and athletes, as well as medical professionals looking to treat young athletes. Welcome. I'm making sure that the live stream's going. I think it's going. I think it's going. It should give us an update here in a second. Sorry, guys. Let's see. There it is. All right. Welcome, you guys. Reminder. So for those of you that don't know me, and those that are new, I am Brandi Smith. I am the founder of Perfect 10 Physical Therapy and Performance Training, Perfect 10 PT Academy, which is online courses for parents, coaches, and athletes, as well as medical providers who would like to treat young athletes. I am a former two-time national champion collegiate gymnast, and in my process of doing gymnastics, had lots of injuries, dealt with fear, had some eating issues, and got through all of those things, everything from being cut from the gymnastics team in college because of fear, and losing my scholarship prior to that. Actually, I lost my scholarship due to an injury. I was out for 9 months and then came back and walked on, and then lost my place on the team. Got cut from the team and came back to earn a scholarship as a starter on both balance beam and vault, which balance beam is where I had a 3-year battle of fear. And so came back, started on beam and vaults, and contributed to national championship title in college. So in that process, I realized a lot of things about myself, a lot of things about the brain, the body, how it all works. And I went into physical therapy school, became a physical therapist, went through a fellowship program and residency, did a whole lot of slew of other things after that, and put all those puzzle pieces together to begin working since 2008 with young athletes, various types of athletes in sports. But I do have a specialty in the gymnastics world, but I've worked with everything from tennis, golf, soccer, all the ball sports, volleyball, basketball, softball, baseball, track. I've worked with all levels of sport athletes, recreational all the way up to Olympic level, and professional athletes, including Olympic level gymnasts, and as well as professional and Olympic level runners, we had sprinters, we had long distance runners that were all Olympic level, and professional Ironman and marathon and triathlete athletes that I worked with, as well as professional golf. I've done professional golf and professional wrestling as well, like WWE wrestling. So a little bit, side note, probably didn't know anyone knew I did any WWE wrestlers. The fun note is that when they're 8 feet tall, they're like, they're 7 feet tall. When they're kneeling, they're about the height of me standing, which was a fun, like just fun thing. And one time, so a little side note about my life, just before we go on, is that the Undertaker taught me how to do a arm bar. He let me take him down in the middle of the clinic, which was like one of those prideful moments. As a 5'2", blonde hair, blue-eyed former gymnast, I got to take down the Undertaker. He said, "Be careful, you could break someone's arm that way." The wrestler physique versus the gymnastics physique. Yes, Sean, it's a very different thing. You have to realize it is interesting. If you notice the body structures in various sports, there is, when you get to higher levels of those sports, we've talked about it a little bit, there's a natural attrition out of the sport because certain body genetics do better in certain sports. That's why Michael Phelps is gigantically wide shoulders and this narrow, the triangle. That's like classic for a swimmer. And that's also why gymnasts are like not 7 foot tall. They're 5'2" typically, or shorter. Yeah, I love this. So Patricia says, I love that you used to watch she used to watch the Undertaker with her nephew when they were little. Yeah, he's actually one of the most kind-hearted guys ever. His name is Mark. He's one of the most kind-hearted guys ever. But like I said, taught me how to take him down with what's called an arm bar, which if you're not careful and you put your knee in the wrong place and you do it too hard, you could break someone's arm. So I felt very deadly at the time. I was like, yes. So little side note, randomness this morning. that's a little bit about me. We're welcome for Blueprint for Peak Performance. Ask me anything. We are still open for Q&A. I do want to announce, though, we just had an addition, and I do have some more coming in. But on October, you guys are not going to want to miss this. Let me check. Hold on. October the 16th from noon to 1 on Central Standard Time, we have Christine Marshall coming in with Nurturing Pathways. And we are going to discuss the three building blocks to becoming a better learner and athlete and just amazing human. So we're going to do a lot of like developmental and neural stuff and how that can help us all be just better at everything that we do, including better learners and better athletes, better in our performance. So that'll be one you don't want to miss. So mark your calendars, October the 16th. You'll still have to register for that time, but be sure to mark your calendars. Now, remind me, Madhu, did we have something specific? Were we going into squatting?
Yeah, squat progressions. We did a little bit, but not too much last week.
Okay, great. Okay, so we're going to start with squat progressions and jumping and landing this week. We're kind of continuing along our pathway. We started with ankle mobility. We went into some more information about not just ankle mobility, but also some stability and strength stuff there. And then now this week, we are going to go into some squatting mechanics and landing mechanics. So before we start, I just kind of want to take a poll in the room. What are our thoughts? What are y'all's thoughts when we say it's a good squat, like, or they have good landing mechanics? Like, what do you guys think of when that's stated? Yeah, Sean, come on in first, and then go ahead and raise your hand so I can virtually let you guys in.
Yeah,
Balance.
I think the first thing that I have that comes to my mind with a squat is making sure the butt is low enough for to it for and ever since the last webinar actually when you mentioned that my knees go over my feet a lot with it and I'm glad that you did that because I'm like I was questioning whether it's necessary to have the knee to if the knees need to be over the like over the foot and because mine aren't because mine don't but I'm like well it doesn't seem to make logical like anatomical sense for it to for the knees to exceed the foot but like also for a quality the first thing I think of with a quality squat is making sure the glutes the butt is back down and back far enough and like and down enough for it to so the bend is in the hips and not in the waist.
Oh, you mean, not in the low back, you mean?
Yeah,
So like
so it's
they're not
not
bending
getting
in their
long.
low back, but they drop
Yeah,
their bottom down to squat.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. You don't want butt up in the air and they're bending in their low back.
And
Yeah,
like
that makes sense.
and the angle and the foot angle maybe doesn't necessarily need to be like straight, but like a little bit off, unless I'm incorrect about this, but like a little bit off is not wrong because I've heard that CrossFit athletes, that's how CrossFit athletes squat for their barbell squats.
Is what
So
feet turned out.
feature now just
Mhm.
slightly, so like just so you don't want to be straight, but just slightly turned out is perfectly fine for a squat.
Okay. And go ahead, Patricia, you come in and tell me what you've got with your squatting. We're just gonna kind of let in some of the thoughts right now.
Sure. Oh, hi. I was like, where did I go? And this is no shade to any of the coaches that my daughter has had because I know they're multitasking and trying to keep their eye on a handful of kids at the same time. But when I get the chance to watch my daughter's teams do conditioning, I see a lot of girls sort of bouncing in the squat. They're not really squatting, they're just sort of like bouncing up and down. Same thing with single leg lunges. They're kind of going forward and back, but they're more bouncing and their form isn't correct and they're wobbling all over the place. And never was a gymnast. I'm a runner. And so, I usually grab my daughter after, or sometimes we stretch together, we work out together. And I'm like, okay, here's a proper squat. You got to be stable. You're not bouncing. You're not like flexing your back. It's not in your head. It's a squat. And yeah, so I'm glad you're talking about this because again, I know a lot of girls, especially when it comes to conditioning, they hate it. So they kind of want to sneak to a corner, get in the back so they're not seen. Coaches multitasking, trying to keep their eye on, 10, 12 girls. And I see the bouncing and the wobbling. And then I think, well, no wonder you've got shin splints, your ankles hurt, your knees hurt, your back hurts. It's not because you worked hard, it's because you're doing your squats wrong.
Yeah. And the thing is how we train is how we perform. Right. So if I'm squatting just my body weight, or I'm squatting 20 pounds, and in reality, I want people to weight themselves. I don't have any athlete. I mean, in general, if you're running, which is pretty much most sports, not all, you're diving, you're not, you're not running. You might, but you have to have power off that platform. So there's still a punch and a small run through, depending on what kind of dive you're doing. But you have to get power from a stretch up to a bend and a jump, right? Like you should still have good squat mechanics. So in short, though, like most sports, if you're doing any kind of running involved in it, that's minimum 5 times your body weight. So I need to load you. Even if our kids are just out running on the playground, they're running 5 times their body weight through their ankles and their knees. And I cannot tell you this last week how many coaches. I was at a different gym in Seattle. We were doing a camp. There was multiple coaches there who were there doing clinicians and stuff. They were talking to me about it. I had multiple people message me, but they're like, there's an epidemic of this pronation, epidemic of flat feet, epidemic of like collapsing arches, whatever word you want to use. There's an epidemic of it in kids. And I'm like, yeah, like there's a couple things playing into that from how we develop, which is the whole thing we're going to talk about October 16th, but like, whether they crawled and spent much tiny time, all that stuff affects how they weight their feet. And then just the whole shoe world and a lot of things about it. And then also this development of no one paying attention when they're squatting. So one aspect that we're going to tackle of this epidemic of flat feet, because it's not that they have flat feet. So I don't know if we've talked about this, but I should define this. So if you take someone's foot and they're resting and they have a little arch resting, it may not. Now I have a high arch. That puts me at risk for ankle sprains. Guess what? I had them. But that being said, if you put them hanging and they have an arch and then you stand and they collapse, that's a functional flat foot. They don't have a structural problem. They need to wake up their muscles that are asleep. Now, someone said, but my whole family is like this because it runs in the family. Because guess what? We're all wired a little bit differently, and that's genetic a lot of times, how loosey-goosey we are, how tight we are. And so a person who has high risk of collapsing that arch may be on the continuum of loosey-goosey continuum, and you can see it. And it may run in the family that the whole family has more lax collagen in their feet, which makes them more prone to the ability to collapse. But that does not mean you can't train the arch. It's only a structural issue where there's a bone issue, something like that. If you put them up in the air and they're completely flat or concave, and then when you put them standing, they collapse. That is a small percentage of people, very small. The bulk of everybody is going to fall in this group where if you sit them on a mat or they sit dangling, they have a little arch, some bigger than others, some short, some long. That's all anatomy based on genetics and how they're built. And then they go to stand, they collapse, right? And for those of you that are new joining us, this collapsing we're talking about, we've been talking about it for a while, but it basically looks like this, where my feet just collapse and roll in. So we use the word pronation, overpronation. There's an entire slew of shoes, motion control shoes, stability shoes, all of those shoes with a medial post in them, orthotics, insoles, entire slew of research in the world of arches in the feet and how to help improve them. And you can go down a bunch of different continuums about the fact of using orthotics or motion control shoes versus barefoot shoes. And what I will say is ultimately we want to give as little support as we possibly can. But when someone has a really flat foot or they're collapsing a lot, in the process of learning, it can be helpful to give them things like the X brace, which is, I know we have someone in here who is saying that they have a daughter with Severs, And we can talk a little bit more about Sievers, but an X brace is something that I'll use as the process of recovery because it helps to give proprioception to the brain to help improve these squat mechanics we're about to go through. So the X brace looks like this. This is the basic X brace. It's a figure 8 brace. Looks like this. And it wraps around the heel. Okay. And it helps to give some feedback to help with decreasing this collapsing. Now they came up with an X brace plus, okay. And my athletes who have Sievers do seem to like these more. This one can do the job. This one can be maybe a little more refined and a little bit better. It offers a little more support. It offers a third strap that's supposed to go right here, which helps to kind of offload where the tendon attaches to the growth plate there. And so that's the theory behind it. So there's an extra strap on it, the X Brace Plus. It's just come out in the last 6 months at least. So I do have athletes who have Sievers who will like this, and will use this not as an answer. Okay, it's not going to take away their problem. It's going to help in the process of rehab with rehab exercises done properly. You still have to have full dorsiflexion, the ankle range of motion. We talked about you need 10 degrees to walk. Last week we talked about and we always measure this laying flat with their legs straight out and they pull their toe to their shin. So you need 10 degrees from here to here to walk, 15 to 20 degrees to run. And that is with the foot in neutral. So when I pull my toe up, I pull my toe straight up. I don't pull it like this. So most athletes who have issues, Sievers, all the other issues we've talked about, that when they go to pull up, they'll pull up like this. Or when they walk, because they don't have 10 degrees, the last 5 to 10 degrees when they're 10 degrees when they're running will come because they go into pronation. So when you're measuring that 5 to 5, the dorsiflexion, which we want 10 to 20 degrees, you want to make sure that this heel stays even and doesn't collapse one way or the other.
How did you say that you measure that angle? Like where's the...
We measure it well. We're getting into specific PT stuff here, but anyone can look at it. You're measuring, basically, you have the bone of the fibula, the little joint, like there's a big knot right here. You're measuring the midline of this bone. The fulcrum is the ankle bone, okay? And then you're measuring parallel to this 5th metatarsal. Not on it, but parallel to it. So you're measuring from here to here. So I'm measuring like parallel center to this way. Now that takes a little bit of skill, and from therapist to therapist, there's a 5-degree error. So I've gotten it down to about 2 degrees. Most recently, most of the time when I have students and stuff, we check, and I'm about 2 degrees from person to person. And online, I'm about 2 degrees as well. But yeah, so it's 10 degrees to walk, 15 to 20 to run. So you have to improve ankle mobility. This is not going to give you magical dorsiflexion. It'll improve things a little bit, and it'll help give feedback to help activate some of the posterior tibialis, the gastroc, the soleus, some of the other muscles we've talked about in the past to get you good foot control, right? And I'll use the X brace when we squat to help them find their 4 points, which we talked about last time. And don't worry, Alicia, as I teach, I'll go over the 4 points for you. But to help them find the 4 points, the X brace will help them. So anyone who's got some overpronation, and that's part of their ankle, knee, or hip issue, I will put them in some X braces. I'll check their standing on one leg squat, and it should improve. Their foot control should improve with the brace on. If it doesn't improve, many times I'll tell you their foot control, knee control, and hip control will improve when I put this on, just because of the proprioceptive feedback. It's compression. Whereas Madhu loves compression. Madhu, this is compression just at the foot. We don't get systemic stuff like we do when we do core compression, right? Like when we do the core Leo. So sometimes I have kids with Sievers that I put them in a core Leo and I'll put them in an X brace. Core Leo gives them some good feedback to improve all their central stabilization stuff, and their hips get better and even their feet get a little better, but they're still not as good as I need them for training. I'll put X braces on in addition to the core Leo. So it works on that same concept of that if we have compression, we can enhance the proprioceptive feedback to the brain, and then the brain can give better information down the chain so you have better control. Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, I know. I'm gonna get to that, Patricia. Thank you for reminding me. But yeah, so I wanted to cover that because I know Alicia had put into the chat that she wished she had been here last week, which Alicia, you can check the YouTube, my YouTube channel. We did do this live, so it's on the YouTube. There's two different sessions. So last session and the session before, and you can even check some of my other previous sessions there. Oh, okay. No worry. Yeah, so check there because that'll also help you because I'm probably not going to get to cover everything here today, but I'll try to keep that in mind as I teach the squats too today so that you can kind of get an idea. I lost track of where I was answering. There was that. And oh yes. And then also thank you, Trista. Trista said she must be playing. And so Trista, are you playing with the bow and bend with your daughter?
Yeah, honestly, it was kind of funny because the older two do volleyball now. And so we were just
They need
peppering
to squat.
around.
They need
And
to squat.
yep. And so Coco was, of course, doing it a little funky. And I'm like, no, no, no. So stand up, now bow, now bend. Because she was just sort of keeping her pelvic area flattened and then leaning over,
From the
or she
knee.
was putting her knees way too far. So it was a good trick to get her to the right space.
So it worked for you. It worked for you.
Mhm.
Did you
Yep.
put something behind her to sit on?
No, we have done it. You're gonna laugh. We did that a while back because I was looking at some of your videos, and then I went ahead and I like took two pencils and I pointed them down her legs and like taped them in two areas so that she could see when her knees were going in or out
Love
as
it.
she was squatting so she could stay like nice and straight. But she probably does need some work still on because she's always, even when she ice skated, her ankles were always like rolling in. So she needs to do a little bit more work to strengthen all of that up.
Yeah. Sometimes I like the pencil idea. I've never thought of use the pencil, but that's a great idea because you're trying to keep the shin bones parallel to each other. If your knees are rolling in, they are not parallel. So that's nice. And also you don't want the erasers to go past your toes, but you want them to stay. I like that idea. It's not a bad idea. I've done stickers, like the cheap garage sale stickers. Let me see. I think I have them. Yeah. So, I like these colored dot stickers. You can just stick them like on the hip. So I say like, where's the center of the pelvis? It's right here. And then where's the center of the kneecap? So I find their kneecap. Like that's the center. Where's the top? That's the bottom. So like find center. And then where's the center of the ankle? Let's see. And then I just have them. So you find the two bones right here. And you just put right in the center. You can see I have a scar actually there. One of my many surgeries that I had that made me a great PT. So you're here, right here. And so I'll put stickers down the middle, down those lines, and then I'll put a mirror in front of them or like a device, like an iPad, and use it as a mirror. And then just say, I want you to keep those in line. So that helps you a little bit with the forward view, but it doesn't help you as much with the side view, which is why putting something behind them will help with the dropping the bottom and keeping that side view balance. We'll review some of those exercises here just in a second. Okay, so so back to that one little piece though that Patricia said, which was a couple of things. So one, I wanted to comment on the epidemic of overpronation. It is a real deal thing. Why it's completely happened, I can give you all kinds of thoughts on that, but we'll address how to help address it. And one aspect I will say, two things. One, if there's any athletes that wear shoes all the time, they need to make sure to take their shoes off. If we're always in shoes a lot, you need to make sure you're taking your shoes off. If you're a male gymnast and you're wearing socks all the time, you should take the socks off quite often, if not a lot, and do a lot of exercises without socks on because they love to even do all their conditioning with socks on. And then and the reason I say this is that in our brain, we have this motor map, and you guys have heard me talk about it a lot. But what we know happens is that if I have like something on me that puts my foot together like a shoe, or if I have socks on all the time, my map in my brain begins to create like a glove like my foot is a glove, and I lose connection to all the toes. And so it's really important that they get chances to move the digits, their toes, their fingers, like even fingers. People tend to like move things together. And it's like, well, they should be able to wiggle things separately. See, look, that took a little effort on my part to wiggle this middle finger. And so the better our motor map is, the more refined it is, the more clear it is, the better my control is going to be, and the better my connection to my extremities, to my feet, and to my hands will be. So spending time outside of shoes, spending time outside of socks, feeling various surfaces. People laugh at me. I walk in my neighborhood with no shoes on. And I do it because I want to feel the grass. I want to feel the dirt. I want to feel the ground. And it's all very important for me because it's a way of taking in information and moving my feet and improving my motor map. So that's one aspect to the epidemic. Now, this whole thing about bouncing and letting their hips and knees roll in, this is really important. It is hard. I mean, I used to coach. I coached all the way up to level 10 gymnast. And my favorite, believe it or not, was running the preschool program. I was the preschool director for a long time, for several years. So, okay, great. No problem. Yeah, so one of the things though that, you know, I get is that it is hard when we're running a program to have our eyes on every single athlete every single time. But what I'm doing with several of the gyms I work with in my Invincible Athlete program is they're taking some time right now to back up with their kids and teach their kids and their coaches all the way down to the beginner coaches. Because believe it or not, the most important coach in a gym is the beginner coaches. It's that foundation group, because the first time we learn something, we build a motor highway in our body and our brain, right? Like from the muscles to the brain, brain back to the muscle. We build that highway the first time we learn a skill. And so if they're learning it with a bad habit, it's much harder to break that pattern in that highway than it is to just create it good the first place. So they're going back and they're spending some time teaching some of these mechanical things. Hip, knee, ankles in a line, 4 points, bend at the hips, knees, ankles together, about equivocal. Here's some drills. And they're teaching them to everyone. And they're spending about, so one of the athletes, one of the coaches spent about 2 to 5 minutes per kid teaching all the mechanics. And then they're just going to keep doing that every week until they get kind of the understanding. And the reason why this is so important with squatting and jumping is that this is the foundation. The ability to control your hip, knee, ankle, and your pelvis and bending. It is the foundation for running. It's the foundation for leaping. It's the foundation for anything that jumps. It's the foundation for anything that takes off or lands. And if you think about it, I think I said this before, where do injuries occur? Do they occur? Where do the most bulk of injuries occur? In the air or on the ground? On the ground. It's on takeoff and landing. That's when things happen, when we collide. So my ability to control my body when I collide with another surface is basically going to determine if I'm injured or if I'm successful at my sport. Because if I bleed out power, you guys have heard me say that before, if I'm bleeding out power by collapsing my arches, I'm not going to be as high and as good, and I'll probably attritionate out of the sport at some point. But at some point, that force I'm putting into the ground that's bleeding out, a lot of it's starting to go towards my joints, ligaments, and other places. Yeah, your dad. So Sean's saying his dad's a trail runner and encourages all of this. Yeah, like running and walking, just walking. You don't have to run. You don't have to run on rocks. I'm not asking you to go run on rocks, but like walking. And there's all these surfaces now that you can buy that have pebbles and all kinds of things that you can buy. There's a whole slew of marketing towards this situation of trying to create different senses to your feet. So my feet take in different information. And this is great, by the way, and this is not sports related, but anyone who's diabetic, this is trainable. They lose their sensation of their feet, and that causes balance problems. So we already know it's well researched that if people lose sensation in their feet in the diabetic population, they get neuropathy, they lose sensation in their feet, and they're at high risk for falling. Well, guess what? If I'm an athlete and I lose a little bit of sensation because I'm in shoes all the time or socks all the time, guess what? I'm at higher risk for spraining an ankle, hurting my knee, hurting my hip, because I've lost just enough sensation. Like, think about it. If I'm doing something that's 10 to 14 times my body weight and I lose a little bit of proprioception, does it matter? Heck yeah. Like, that matters way more than someone that's just walking their body weight. You're just walking your body weight, probably not going to have a problem if you have just a little bit of loss of proprioception. But if you have a loss of control and from that proprioception feedback issue, then it's going to make a huge difference when you're tumbling. You know, elite gymnasts tumble 20 times their body weight. They need everything they can get. Yeah. Oh, I trained all of this without knowing it, living in a third world country during my childhood. Yeah, like there are things like us just not having shoes. So like we don't allow shoes in our house. So because we don't have shoes in our house and our habit is to always take off our socks anyways, then we're always walking around barefoot here. But then also my daughter and I specifically take walks out to the park near our house with no shoes on for this reason. So anyways, just a side caveat, because I do notice, especially male gymnasts, like girl gymnasts tend to always have their feet out. But male gymnasts in particular, they wear socks all the time, the whole time. They need to take them off. I make them take them off when they do their conditioning, they're running. I make them take off anytime they're not doing something they need socks for. Like, I want to see your feet. Yeah. So Sean says his landings are strong. That would make sense. Yeah. Carla's saying her son is always in socks. I go, I know, right? Like this is something we need to work on. The elite level, he's an elite level gymnast, Carla's son. And I'm telling you, the elite level male gymnast, I actually was blown away. Because in my mind, I was assuming this was like kind of a new occurrence. I was assuming they were taking their socks off at times in practice because I thought they only needed socks for like pommels. Right? Like, what do they need socks for besides pommels? I mean, they make it look pretty on their high bar. Carla,
I
can
mean,
you
he does triple backs off high bar and he lands in socks and it kills me.
Yeah. I
I,
agree.
like, yeah, the sock thing, like, I can't even imagine a girl landing a flyaway in socks. And yeah,
Never.
I mean, the girls would have a fit, you know, if I told them, please go put your socks on. Yeah. Even tumble track. I'm like, dude, take those socks off. Yeah. No.
Yeah, I don't get it.
And my youngest one is a gymnast, and like we have, because well, actually both. I'm still finding their socks in our gym because they would always wear socks into our gym and then they take them off because I make them everywhere. So
It's good. Maybe you just need a sock bin where you can just make them take them off and immediately put them in their bin. I mean, really, honestly, what did they need socks for? Pommel horse? It's just pretty. I think they just try to make their feet look pretty, a part of the long pants on rings and high bar. I think it's an aesthetic thing. But
yeah, I think it just makes them like more of one line. I don't know, because they were pants.
yeah, and then same thing for pommel, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
But they don't wear socks. Okay, so Colt doesn't
They
wear
don't wear socks on vault floor.
That's the only time they don't wear socks as well.
Vault and floor.
Vault and floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not enough. That's so
But those are the only times they wear shorts. So when they wear shorts, they don't wear socks. And when all the other 4 events, they'll require pants. And so they wear socks.
It's very interesting. We should talk to these people who made up men's gymnastics because there's a uniform change in the middle. Like, girls don't get a uniform change. Isn't that interesting, Carla?
Yeah, it has always been very interesting to me. Like I have never, like when he trained at our gym, like I always, at every event, I'm gonna get those socks off.
Yeah.
Because to me, it just rings. It's kind of like a flash, you know what I mean? Like you just become hypersensitive, you know what I mean? You're just not supposed to wear socks.
Yeah.
In my head.
Yeah, I think it's great. I would like to challenge any male gymnast out there. Send me some video of you doing high bar and rings and pommels without socks on and conditioning. But it's like, why are they keeping their socks on for conditioning? That's what I think. It's interesting. There is a gym here that I work with and I think that's the other reason why I didn't realize this was for real, like a big thing. But I'm realizing it depends on the gym though, because there's a gym here that I worked with really closely and they literally had special pommel socks where they would put on these, like, they're all funny, like they're funny socks, like SpongeBob SquarePants and like red and white stripes or whatever. It was like a thing that they did, but they only put them on for pommels, for training. And most of them trained in shorts. So then they would train high bar and rings with no socks on, but they would put for pommels, I guess, just to kind of, in case they skimmed, because they were younger, most of them, they would wear these long pommel socks, just for pommels though, not on any other event. Yeah, so part of me thought that that was kind of how things were always running everywhere, but then I had a realization that
I think mine's just attached with socks.
there all are. The
Or
elite
maybe,
sports are-
and
yeah.
very, very rarely do you ever see Carson take his shirt off either.
Well, yeah, I know. I made him one time in the gym and he just had a panic attack. Yeah. You didn't like me. Like, I'm looking at your shoulder, dude. I need to see your shoulder blades. Or whatever it was at the time. I need to see your neck. I don't remember. It was something I needed to see his spine
He's
for.
doing it more often just because he has no air and it's so hot. So
Oh, well, that'll
has
be
to
good.
stay not passed out.
I mean, you know me, I like to push people's boundaries. So if we have some kind of boundary, I want to know why. Can we adapt to it? Let's make it more adaptable, like our nervous system. All right, so that's kind of the little bit take on the spending more time. So I do think that we have to remember as coaches that you train, you get what you train. And it is worth, and this is what the gyms that are in my Invincible Athlete program are finding, is because I go very detailed. Like, we're about to talk about some stuff, but I go super detailed into the mechanics of everything. And we go into like how to finagle. So we do the fine art of stuff in my Invincible program. And so what they are deciding is that this is like really one of their big causative factors to injuries, and they want to prevent injuries and then also to performance. And so they're spending the time up front to retrain everyone right now. And they're going to actually enhance, and most of the gyms and coaches I've worked with, they start to refocus on mechanics of their conditioning that they already are doing, because they're already doing these wonderful squats, Patricia, which is great. But you're right, you get what you train. And so if you don't train hip, knee, ankle alignment when you're doing a squat, and you don't make an athlete aware that that's a problem, most athletes are just not aware of it. And inevitably, I love to have gyms that have big window mirrors in them. I've had a few gyms recently that just didn't have the mirrors yet, or whatever was happening. So using mirrors, teaching athletes the proper technique, it's worth the time up front. I can tell every coach, every parent that it's worth the time up front to spend some extra time, so that, number one, they have better mechanics. Number two, they can control their body better, and they get better height and amplitude. But the biggest thing underneath it is decreasing their injury risk. There's so much on squatting. Yeah, we'll see. I don't think that handstands will be a subject today. That's a whole topic in itself, but we can do that next week. Sean. Okay, so let's talk about squatting and how you might set something up for squatting. So, oh, I wanted to show you guys. Oh, that's right. I had Bailey's stuff. Hold on a second. Let me drop in. Let me show you. Did I show you guys the basics of squat mechanics last time and jumping, or did we remind me, Madhu?
Yes, just the basics. Like, we did the two different heights of the little stools.
Okay, two different heights of the stools. Did I do anything with sticks or anything like that?
Not with sticks, no.
Okay, great. Let's teach you the stick stuff. And then I want to drop in what to do with one of my athletes that I worked with. She had this whole moving forward thing. I know I have it somewhere on this computer, but I think I'm just going to drop it from her thing. All right, so let me grab a couple of things. So you can use a dowel rod. You can use a broomstick without the broom on it, or a mop handle without the mop on it. Any of those things will work. We want a flat surface for them to hold on to, and for them to get feedback as to where they're bending from, where are they hinging when they do the squat. So hold on, there we go. Okay, good. I want to drop in this little thing. I'm pretty sure I dropped it in the other day, but I have lots of ways that we work on squatting, but I want to show you guys. Yeah, I'll show you two different ways I did it with her. We did it with, I'm not sure which one of these is going to be good. We'll do that. Mac. If I share it one at a time, it'll work. And then there we go, is me fixing it. It's received. Okay, good. Close. This one. send that one. And then I'm going to show you how to do it. So I'll show you how to do it with weights. I'll show you how to do it with sticks. I'll show you how to do it with weights. I'll show you how to do it with bands. Oh, is that when we did jumping? I think we did. Let me see. Hold on one second. Play. Oh yeah, perfect. Okay, great. All right, so we'll do that. Oh, and she hated jumping backwards. Let me tell you guys how many athletes hate doing things backwards. And that tells you should do it. That tells you should do it. All right. I'm dropping a couple videos in here, and then I'm going to show you guys the lead up to this. And then I want to show you how to deal with when things go weird. Because things go weird all the time. Yeah, this is when she got weird on us. Let's see. I don't know which one. I'll do this one. Hold on. I have to send, if I send them one at a time, they go faster. Or sometimes it gets hung up if I do it 2 at a time. I'm afraid I'm sending too many things, but it's okay. 1 second. Sorry, guys. I'm glad we were able to. All right. So if you're at home and if you have a stick, a broomstick or a dowel rod, grab it because you can play with us while we do it. I would love for you to play, even if you're a parent, because guess what? We all have some mechanic issues. We should all be able to do that. You should be able to bend over and get that dog food bag and not have any problems or whatever it is that you have to pick up. Okay, let me grab. I'll give you a couple surface options. Hold on. Okay. That's that, that's that. Stick. Okay, we don't need the ball. All right. This space is constantly changing. All right, so there's a couple of things that I will work on when we go to squatting. Now, we talked about the 4 points last time, and I showed you guys all that stuff, right? Correct? Yeah, so sometimes I start with the 4 points. Sometimes if I notice that they are just not bending at all, or when I try to work on the 4 points, they still just got really bad in the back, I'll start with this piece. But a lot of times I start with the 4 points first because I find that if I can get their 4 points looking better, then I can work on this other piece. So the 4 points piece is that we have 4 points on our feet, ball of our big toe, pinky toe, inside heel, outside heel. And you want to have your weight evenly distributed all 4 points. What a lot of kids have is the 2 points. So I just have them roll in and out. So whatever I start with today, I have them start with those 4 points and find in and out 3 times and then find center. Okay, so that's one piece. Now, the next piece is that I will work on the hip hinging part. So what will tend to happen is athletes will try to stay. Can you see all of me, Sean? Yeah, okay.
Everything but your head.
But my head. See if we can get all of it because we want ear in line too.
Yes, correct. Everything but the, yeah, I got it now.
Okay, thanks. Okay, I can't see my little window because I'm seeing you guys as well. So, all right, so I have them do the 4 points in and out, and then I just want to, I just want to see how they squat, right? So first thing I say is how you squat. So a lot of athletes will tuck their tail, and I can't even go very far because my ankles, but they'll tuck their tail, and they'll stay upright like this. So they'll squat, and their knees will go way forward, and they'll tuck their tail underneath. Some athletes will reach way out, and they'll go like this. They stick their butt way out. And then they don't bend their knees over their toes. They keep like very limited ankle range of motion. So either way, that's not what I want. Some of them will tuck like this. They're really rounding in their low back. So I want to work on that hinging part to teach them what Trista was talking about from last week is the bow and bend. So they should bend at their hips and their knees equally. So the first piece of that for that person, that athlete that's tucking their tail or they're rounding, either one of those, I'll get them something to sit on. And you can get a stick. And you can put the stick behind their back. And they hold the stick at their like tailbone and at their neck. And you want to have them alternate. Don't always have them. There's also a shoulder mobility exercise a little bit by holding the stick. So I want everything flat against the stick as best they can. Okay. And then they're going to bend from their hips. And if they have that tuck the tail or bend in their low back thing, if I tuck my tail, that works. If I stick my tail out, but I still round here, the stick comes off. So the stick automatically gives them some feedback. They want to make sure, that they always do it both directions, both hands, and they get everything as flat as they can against the stick. And then they keep everything against the stick as they bend. So that's the first part, is just hinging. So I just have them hinge. And so maybe they're on this, maybe they're on a lower surface on a spotting block, this is an incline that's folded up. But either way, you just have them do the hinges. So this is like station number 1 at the gym. If you're a coach, you can just have a station. Now, front surface, let's talk about that. I don't want the athletes doing this with their knees in. I want them to practice their 4 points. So find their 4 points, keep their 4 points. And as they hinge forward, their knees should stay over their second toe. Okay. So this is station number 1. Station number 2, or at the same station when they get the hang of it. And there'll be a group of athletes that they need to do this for a few practices. They just need a little extra love, a little extra attention about it. So the next step is that I have them hinge, keep everything flat against the stick. They're going to bow, and then push through their heels and stand up. And I want them to keep their 4 points. Okay, keep their 4 points. Then if they can, bow and then bend at their knees, maintaining their 4 points in their ankle. Okay, I'm gonna come back up here so you can see my spine. So I'm gonna bow, push through my feet, come up. And then I'm gonna bow. Now notice I'm not bowing. I don't want their bottom to go way back. I don't want them just flopping, right? So I want to keep my weight as I'm bowing. My hips are staying fairly over my feet. They go back a little bit, but not way back here, right? I'm not shoving my knees back in hyperextension. I'm staying over and then bend the knees and come upright. I want them to practice coming upright. And then I bow. Sometimes I tell them bow until you feel like you're going to fall, and then stand up. Bow, bend the knees, sit down. Now, as they get the hang of it, I start to make it faster. So now I'm going to bow till you feel like you're going to fall, stand up. Bow, bend the knees. Bow, stand up. So it's starting to look more like a squat. Bow, bend the knees. Now bow and come up. Bow and bend the knees at the same, so it's very close. It starts to get smoother and smoother. Now, once they get the hang of that, I might take the stick away and begin to load them with some weight. Okay. And so we just take some dumbbells. What do I have? So I just have them do some dumbbells. Now, like bigger athletes, like more stronger athletes, a little older, more powerful, it's 2 25s, 2 30 pounds, like load them. I want them to do heavy weight to where they're tired at 5 or 6, at the most at 8, right? Now the little guys, they might be doing 2 10 pounds. And the limiting factor is not going to be their legs. It's their hands. So sometimes I load them with a weighted vest. There's a vest here. Sometimes we'll do actual Olympic squats, right? With a bar. But just for quick and easy in the gym, I'll put some weight on them. And back to a while back when I talked to you guys about the ram's horns, I have athletes find their 4 points in and out, and I have them draw a line from the inside, opposite hand, opposite foot. This is a trick. I'm trying to make them cross midline in their brain. Everything I do is intentional. I'll have an athlete try to do this, and when they're doing that, that tells me if that's their preference, especially if I said do this and I'm showing them and they do the same side, their brain is having trouble crossing midline, and it's even more important that they do this. So sometimes I give something that seems so silly, but I'm actually doing because I want their brain to have to do the crossover. So I take this finger, opposite finger, and I go, okay, go for the inside of your arch, up the front of your shin, up the front of your thigh to your belly button. Other hand, inside of your arch, up the front of your shin bone to your belly button. Underneath your rib cage, up the front of your spine, exit from your ears. Right behind your ears, you have this little dip. Exit from there into ram's horns, like ram's horn that rotates, right? So what is this doing? I'm trying to line them up for a good, proper posture. Can you see my head, Sean? Yeah, okay. So I go 4 points in and out, come up into the ram's horns so that my entire head is coming up into ear, shoulder, rib cage, pelvis, knees, ankle, and slightly in front of like the midfoot. So I'm coming up, I'm finding this nice straight posture. So it's just an alignment thing that's better, right? So now 4 points in and out, and then I'm gonna have them do the same thing. Bow, bend, bow, push the floor away. When I push the floor away, I get my glutes going. So I bow, bend, and then I bow, push the floor away. Now I'm not telling them to squeeze anything. Never am I telling them to squeeze anything. Now again, on the front end of this, let's lower this for you guys so you can see. Okay. Probably right there. Yeah. So on the front end of this, I tell them like I have headlights on my pelvis and my shoulders. And I want those headlights to be parallel to the floor and to each other. And I want them both facing forward. I don't want to see one headlight going this way. I don't want to see this way. I don't want to see my shoulders this way and these headlights that way. I want to see them all going forward. And if you really have a problem and you need to iron this out, you actually could put lasers on people. Like you can put those little lasers turned on and they could see on the wall whether the lasers are straight or not. That's just a fun way, but that's very detailed. Can't really do that in a large group. Okay, so now 4 points in and out, find middle. And now I want hip, knee, ankle in alignment. So middle my hip, middle my knee, middle my ankle. I don't know, let's see. You guys can see the knee. Is that better without the pants, Sean?
Yeah.
See the knee? Okay, good. All right, so 4 points in and out, find middle. And then I'm just gonna do the same thing. Bow, bend. So notice I see knee here. And it's right over my midfoot.
Everything's in line.
Huh?
Everything's in line.
Everything's in line.
Yep.
And then fold and come up.
Yep.
Fold and sit down. Now, where do we go from this? This is ideal. I teach them that. This is ideal.
Mm-hmm.
Where we want to do our heavy loading. This is where I want to land my landings, right? This is where I'm going to take off.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? I need to train you in a variety of ways.
Yep.
Right? So if I'm training you in a variety of ways, I need to give you a base of support, because do most of our injuries happen when we land ideal? No, happens when one foot's here, this one's off here, I'm landing here, right? So then once I've taught them ideal and they have a good understanding of that, then I'll teach them variations. I want your feet wide. Now, guess what? In this wide position, I want to see the 4 points. When I squat, my knee should still go over my second toe. So if my knees are going here, I'm in trouble. I'm collapsing my 4 points when I've done this. So I need my 4 points and I need my knees over my second toes. So there's no wrong way to squat, but we want to be able to control it, right? So here I'll do, knees over toes and come back up. I'll let them pick. Do they want to do their arms out wide? That's fine. They want to do the arms here? That's fine. I don't really care. But let's do it big. Now, I'm still bending, right? So I'm still bow, push away from the floor. Bow, bend. Okay, so nothing changes. Then I love to do in. No one trains in. That's probably the most common way that people get hurt. So feet turned in, and I'm turning them in from my hips. Make sure they're not just turning in their knee. Like this is my knee. I'm turning in my hip, my whole hip. And then 4 points in and out. This is very hard for almost everyone. You can see even me, I don't have as much mobility in this position. So find center. Now my knees are going to go over my second toe, but they should not collide together. So I don't want to see this. I want to see knees over second toe. So you still see my knee is still falling over my second toe. I'm going to come back up. So I fold and come back up and sit up. So same thing, just variations. Now there's no wrong way. Matter of fact, I did an article on 108 ways to squat. It was literally 108 ways to squat. So there's no wrong way. Be creative. You can do 1 foot here, 1 foot back. Feet are straight forward. Bend, bow, bend, bow, stand up. Bow, bend, bow, stand up. You can do a foot turn in. Bow, bend, come up. Now my knee's not collapsing. I'm not losing my arch. Still maintain it. You can do foot turned out. You can do 1 foot turned out, other foot turned out. 1 foot turned in. You can do 1 foot on something. But you have to train this asymmetrical. This is very good. And eventually you're heading towards, a single leg, right? You can do pistol squats. You can do all the different squats. Now, when you get lower into a pistol squat, that's a whole other world. But more hip bend, more knee bend, more ankle bend. They all have to bend more. The next piece to this component, though, is to add some jumps. Okay, so once they've gone through this progression, then I'll have them add monkey jumps. Now, sometimes I do it with weights. I'll show you here in a second. We're going to have to hop off in just a little bit because we're right at time. But I want to show you guys the video with the bands and show you a compensation or a way to get an athlete that really has a hard time with their knees going forward. But I want to show you the monkeys. So one piece is the monkey jump. So the next piece of this, take this squatting towards jumping. So I do 4 points in and out, and I ask them to squat down and just hover. So they're just going to tap their bottom. And then we come off and tap our bottom again. What's happening is I want to teach them to absorb a landing. One of the biggest problems that happens is an athlete squats and lands. And that jolt causes forces to go different places. So I want to teach them to come up, push all the way through the toe, heel, absorb the landing, hip, knee, ankle. If I'm going from, let's say I'm a 100-pound athlete, I just did 20 times my body weight. That's 2,000 pounds. If I go to land that, where does that 2,000 pounds go? It needs to be distributed. And if you guys remember, we talked about the brain is so smart, it will only take up to 8 Gs before it has a concussion or a brain injury. So the brain will take that, however many Gs, I don't know how many Gs 20 pounds of body, I haven't seen that conversion. So I don't know how many Gs 20 times your body weight is, but it's more than 8, that's for sure. So, because the ground reaction force from just running is 12. So this is the way they research it. That's how they measure it, is in Gs. So anyway, so 20 times your body weight is more than 12 Gs, because 12 Gs is 5 times your body weight running. So anyways, point being is those 12 Gs when you're running is dissipated between ankle, knee, hip, spine, so that you don't get 8 Gs or more at the head. So if it's 20 times your body weight tumbling, 2,000 pounds, your body has to distribute that somewhere. And if we're landing like this, it's not getting distributed, but I guarantee the body will figure out how to distribute so it doesn't go to the head. And that'll mean your back will take it, your hip will take it, your knee, your ankle, something. And so then something breaks down. You get micro tears over time. No offense, but the athletes who got injured at trials, those are ticking time bombs. An Achilles tear on one punch of a board, that's 8 to 10 months, if not a year, in building. And so that's like a year worth of not taking your impact or collapsing, etc. Those are things that are preventable. Those things are very preventable. Same thing with ACL tear with one hit on a board. That doesn't happen with just one hit on a board. That happens with over time, things are collapsing and contributing to overloading. The body has decided this is where I'm going to put the force at the knee, or this is where I'm going to put the force at the ankle because I don't have the control somewhere. So I'm very passionate about it because it's preventable, and those are major injuries. So coming on up, I just have them, come in and bounce and hover and tap 1, 2, 3, come up, 1, 2, 3. So as I'm coming up, it's like there's a string lifting them up off their head. They lift all the way up through the toe. And then when they land, so it's like straight leg, then they land toe, heel, knee, and knee, hip. Right? So I just monkey jumps 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now you'll see me always divide them. When they get really good, I'll have them do a sequence, but I want to divide them because I want them to spend time on when their monkey jump is happening. When I'm here, is my knees doing this, right? Are my feet collapsing? And so, or is it just one leg collapse? That happens. So I want them to take time. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So I wanted to take time doing that. All right, any questions about that before I show you guys really quickly a couple videos that I'm dying to show you? Yes, Sean.
The first thing I noticed from when you're doing the squat is that like the hinge part, like dipping the chest is, it seems to be how I've been like I guess how I've trained my body to do the squat is make to bend in the hips more and to keep my chest up. So is that
if you keep your chest up too far, you're going to drop back and you're going to have to
true, but
really hard. You have to work really hard in your calves to not fall over.
Yes, I understand that. Yeah.
Balance.
So I just like, so it's, I guess it's not a bad thing then if the chest is dipped a little bit. I mean, when I take my students through a squat, I just make sure to not have them cave their shoulders, keep their shoulders back, and they eventually like, it's kind of I understand it's unavoidable to not lower the torso down because you kind of have to do that.
Well, yeah, it has to fold at the hips because you can't, if your shoulders don't go forward, right, then you're not bending at your hips. Remember, and we go back to that angle of, I can show the angle here, but the hip, knee, ankle angle, when you're really looking at optimal mechanics and optimal distribution of forces, needs to be equivocal. Now, is it always optimal? No.
Okay.
Have some strength and stuff to like manage when it's not optimal. But optimal mechanics would be hip, knee, ankle, equivocal angle of range of motion. Let me show you guys this. So this is a couple examples of a girl that loves to go past her knees. I mean, past her toes. Her knees go way past her toes. I just want to show you how we worked on it. I'm not going to show the beginning video. It's too many things to find right now. But I want to show you. So what we did was, it goes back to the tension to task. So I created a physical barrier with the different size stools so that she had something to guide her to not let her knees go too far forward. So, and then I did the band cross, which you guys have seen me do, and it's in my Instagram if you haven't. There's a video on how to cross the bands, and you're welcome to reach out to me if you have questions. But I'm using the bands to make her connect her ribcage to pelvis because one of her things was she loved to dump her pelvis forward and she disconnected her core. So, and I almost would have liked to have a stool a little higher.
Stick finger.
But I didn't have one that was the right exact height because I needed her to go a little lower than my other stool I had. But you'll see she's got the stool behind her, so she's sitting like she's going to sit on the stool. The behind the stool gives her ideas to sit in behind the stool. She initiates from the hip, still doing a little knee bend. And then, but then we get her to, I want her knees to come forward, but I want her knees to stop here. So what I liked about having this versus a block, unless you put your tiptoes underneath the block, you could put your tiptoes underneath the block. This has like a little cutout, so her toes are a little there so that her knees fall a little bit on her midfoot, not at her toes. But if you look, she's got hip, knee, ankle. They're fairly close. Fairly close. She's bending a little too much in her hips, just a little, but not a ton, which is way better than what she used to do because she used to tuck her tail and push her knees way forward. So I'm doing a little eye exercise for her where she looks at the stick and the finger down here, stick and finger, because I'm trying to get her vestibular system going. So this is a very specific exercise to her eyes. Not everyone needs the flexion component. Some people need extension where they have to look up. But the part I wanted to show you guys was putting a barrier so that these guys whose knees go too far forward, they have something to know. And then we're looking at here. So see, she had to fix it. I just cued her. I said, right leg, right? So her right leg to start with is slightly rotated in right there. You can barely see it because of the hand of my assistant there. But then, yeah, she fixes it. So we get hip, knee, ankle.
Good.
It's
been a while.
Let's see.
It's okay. I'll take you through it. Okay, arms. You got
So we're a nice connection here.
All right.
She can open the shoulders a
hips.
little bit more.
Knees. Good. Bounce. Oh, wait, sorry. Pop the eyes.
So do you see how
1,
she shoved her hip further
2.
back? So just to start with here, she already wants, because she's overcompensating for what she typically does, she shoved her hips way
Good.
back.
Bounce.
So she's way back here. Versus when we finally ironed it out. So this was a video beforehand. When we finally ironed it out, she's more, do you see how her knees are more evenly here? Whereas here, she's back a little bit. Can you see that, Sean? Because she's shoving her hip back. Yeah, okay, good. So then we worked some more and I started getting her there. We started moving forward. And we worked a little bit more. Okay, that's when we did the monkey jumps. Okay, so we added some monkey jumps here.
3. Jump. 1, 2.
That was a very
3.
flat
Go.
landing where she landed heels
Good.
first.
Good. Let's go again. You ready? Hips. Good. Pop your eyes. 1, 2.
So I'm having her do the
3,
eye
and then
exercise.
bounce, 4 points.
3 bounces.
And up.
That was a much better
Good.
landing. Did you guys hear
Good.
that? Let me move this out of the way.
Down for a second.
So the first one,
Make sure
she
you-
landed heels first. Let's see. Oh, that's after. Is that after or before? Oh, she didn't land heels first. She just landed them fast. There was no
1,
eccentric control.
2, 3. Jump. 1.
You can hear it.
2, 3.
She goes smack.
Good.
But listen to the second one.
Good. Let's go again. You ready?
And she's just learning. She already
Yes.
knows she's not supposed to do this.
Good.
Like not supposed to land hard.
Pop your eyes. 1, 2, 3, and then bounce 4 points. And up.
Couldn't hear her landing at
Good.
all. And so I want to see a soft landing like that.
Make sure you keep your 4 points, okay? So feet are forward, good.
Yeah, I'm just giving her a few extra cues. So I want to see a soft landing like that, and I don't want to hear it. And so if I hear it, I'll tell them, did you hear your landing? Can you make that softer? And then I'll ask them what image makes sense to you for a soft landing. Some of them say, like my daughter said last time I was teaching something, she was here. She said, my soft new blue blanket that we got. So she has this really soft blanket. When she thought about that, she landed so quietly. Other athletes will say marshmallows. Some will say grass, soft grass on the field, like really soft grass. Some will say clouds. Whatever image comes to their mind, we want to hook that to that soft, quiet landing. And again, just making sure that they keep the alignment of the hip, knee, ankle. I want to show, so we did the squatting. There's a couple different ones. Okay, come on, computer, load for me. There we go. I want to show you guys. So we did the same thing with weights for her. So we did a few different, so we did it, and this is going to be a little different, probably. Let's see what it looks like.
No one perfect.
There we go. No,
Good. Down. There we go.
she's struggling.
And 4 points. There you go.
Yeah, so we
Good,
did the
that was
same
better.
thing. She's
Okay.
struggling on this one. So we did the same thing with weights, dumbbells in her hands, but I want to show you guys when we did the jumping. Okay, so then we also work on jumping and jumping off of things and forward and backwards and twisting. And we take this towards stick drills. So I literally do this progression. So like if I have an athlete that's vaulting or they're punching or jumping off of something, even an athlete that's just jumping for you know, a free throw, not a free throw. Oh my God. If I'm just jumping up for a layup, my brain just went blank. Whatever jumping we're doing, I need them to do this kind of jumping. So I have them do 1 or 2, maybe 3 if they need help, squats, tapping their bottom on something. Then I'll have them do 2 or 3 monkey jumps. Then I have them do jumping onto something and off of something. And if they're specifically like a gymnast landing on something, I have them go all the way up to a front tuck or back tuck, or if they can do a standing full. So let's say they're doing a vault that's like a double twisting something and it's backwards. Then I'll have them do a back standing full off of the vault table if they can and land in monkey. If they can't, they just do a back tuck, land in monkey. If it's a front tumbling thing we're trying to stick, I'll have them do a front tuck and land. But before that, as part of their drills, they might do tuck jumps, straddle jumps, twisting, half twist, full twist. Those are like a building block or a conditioning thing that I'll do, like plyometrics, right? I'll do them as part of plyometrics. But to do like just a short drill, I'm about to try to stick a vault. I'll do 1 or 2 squats, 3 if they need most, 2 to 3 monkeys, and then I'll do jumping on or off something. And then I'll do an actual flip off the table stick, all of it landing in monkey. So here is a little demonstration of that. This is not the full, like everything they can do, but this is the basics. So, and there we go. All right, 3 quick videos and then we gotta get out. I know you guys want to get out too. Okay, so we'll start with this one, I think. Let me see. Yeah, okay.
Okay, good. Go again. 1, 2, 3, up.
And that
1,
was a hard
2,
landing.
3.
She landed
Now that's
straight flat.
powerful.
She
Now let's jump off.
was having troubles though getting up before, because when I stuck something in front of her, it freaked her out. She was like, ah, I don't know how to jump that high. And I'm like, you jump way higher. And so you'll see that this landing lands fairly flat foot. Let me move
1,
this.
2, 3. Now that was
I'm gonna
powerful.
go back.
Now let's jump off.
It was way more powerful than what she did before that. But look, very flat. I want her to learn to land toes, then heels. But it's not my priority the first
1,
time I do a
2.
jump with someone. So this is for you parents and coaches working with people. You have to pick priorities first. My first priority is bend from your hips and let's keep your knees over your second toe. My second and third priority will start to be land softer, control the eccentric with the calves, all of that stuff. You can't do everything all at once. It's too much. And for her, her knees going forward were such a big problem. That's something we had to address first.
Now that was powerful. Now let's jump off.
I don't know
Two
where to
forward.
pick- I don't really know where to pick
There we
this
go.
thing.
Okay,
Oh my
ready?
God.
Go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2.
See, and she was quiet on the down.
Good.
So I didn't even need to know
Right.
something because she was already told me, you know, she already knows whether she's supposed to do it or not. She's like, this is hard conditioning. She didn't anticipate to come condition.
They start because of my meeting running over. Okay, go. 1, 2, 3. What
She's
happened?
having trouble. Yeah.
Got lost. What happened? Did you get lost? Yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking about a vestibular component for her. When she jumps forward, she gets slightly lost where she is in space. That's why jumping onto something became a big deal for her. So if you do have an athlete that's jumping forward and they're landing flat-footed and they seem a little lost. So what I knew, she got lost because she landed leaning backwards. So when she was here, she jumped and her feet were really wonky. She barely caught the board and she landed upright trying to push back off of it. And that was a sign to me that her alarm system got kicked on. And for her, I knew that came from her vestibular. So then I asked her, did you get lost? And she said, yeah, she didn't want to admit it because she's like, it's a front jump. So why am I getting lost on that?
You get lost? Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, we didn't video the rest of them. So we worked, oh wait, maybe in this next one. Here we go. So we worked some more things. We probably did a vestibular drill. Got lost again. So you see the jump on and jump off?
I know.
She got lost.
Because her brain's in a new place.
She wasn't sure what to do. That was better.
Okay, and then step forward.
So what's happening is she's learning something new because her brain is like trying to take in the new information. And so she did this hop on, hop off because her brain was like, I don't know what to do. This is new. She's in a new place and her knees aren't going weird. And she's like, this is weird. I don't know what to do with it. That's why she's looking at me.
I know, because her brain's in a new place.
And so I reassure her. I go, it's okay. You're doing something different. Looks good. Try again. And so then she does this. So I'm just encouraging the alarm system to learn something new. And do you see how much more quiet that was? That was much more quiet than the one before, on the other video.
Okay, and then step forward before you jump off. Good.
That
Okay,
was
let me hear
much
your
more
feet.
quiet.
Go again. Do you guys agree that that was better?
Mhm.
Yeah. Come back. 2 more. I don't want to hear your feet though.
So you heard me. I don't want to hear her feet.
Mhm. Better.
That was
Good.
better. She's
Forward.
working on it.
Mhm. That was better.
So
One more
much
time.
better with controlling her knees and everything.
Nice, quiet landing.
So this girl had
Super.
Severs, by the way, like
Oh,
so
you did.
bad. So her Severs, so you'll see the Thule's heel cup sitting over here that we took her out of. But her Severs was so bad that she was having pain just like at rest. Like she couldn't put any weight really for a while. It was so, she had just kind of ignored her body and kept letting it get super inflamed.
Quiet. Nice.
So I want to show, she came in wearing these walking. And then she left jumping without pain. She was wearing these walking because she had pain, just walking. So what I'm saying is this stuff works. We did a bunch of squat stuff. We did some heel raises with the tennis balls. We controlled it. And in one session got her pain and symptoms down. Now it took multiple sessions to get carryover, right? But I'm just saying like we were able to get her from walking in Thule's heel cups because they hurt to jumping off of a block with weight, with only the X brace. And you can see her, she's not wincing. She's not having any problems. It's not a thing. So then we made her go backwards. So I'll do jump straight jumps. I'll do jump tuck jumps, jump straddle jumps. I'll do jump half turns, jump half turn one way. So you're facing forward, jump half turn, landing backwards on the block, jump off backwards, jump half turn, landing forward on the floor. Then I'll do jump fulls. I also do side jumping from side to side. So first I just go right to left across, and then I'll do right with a half turn, left half turn off the block. Are you following, Sean? Yeah. And then I'll do a full turn as well, going sideways. So they need to be able to control it in every direction.
Okay, put hands on your first one.
Yeah. So she's freaked out about going backwards because of her vestibular stuff. She's like, I don't think I'm going to make it. So I was like, do you want me to spot you? Basically, I don't care. I'll spot you. Your alarm system needs to figure out how to jump backwards. And I'll tell you, there's a ton of kids that are afraid and or lose complete control when they jump backwards. They don't train it. And they need to train it. Jumping backwards broad. So before we did this, we also just jumped backwards broadways with just the floor, just jumping backwards on the floor. Then we added the block because she really was afraid.
And jump. You can do it.
She was really afraid. You saw that.
Okay.
Oh, okay. This is when we jump backwards. Okay, good.
Just do it with the weight, but without a thing. You can do it. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Good.
Not jumping higher enough.
You can jump higher. Go. 1, 2, 3. Jump up. Good. You can jump higher. Go again.
So we're just giving her brain this backwards jumping. She's just like trying to figure it out. She says, I don't feel like I'm jumping high enough. So then we jump backwards. So then I said, okay, take the weights away because she's really afraid because of her vestibular system.
Okay, go again. Figured it out.
Why did she jump off? Did you guys notice it? Just scared. She's afraid. And it's not fear like I'm just afraid of. It's truly mechanical. It's coming from her inner ear. So her brain has a primitive response. I don't know if there's something there. I'm going to be ready to jump forward. And so now she found it. And so it gets better.
You got it.
I forgot we had this.
Jump off the other way. Yeah. Good, now I don't want to hear them landing. Okay, you want to do it again without the weight?
And now, so I asked her, so here, autonomy, do you want to do it without the weight
This is
again?
important progression.
So before she did this whole thing here, I said, do you want to try it without the weight? She says, yeah, I want to do it without the weight. So then we do it the way she wants to do it. And I let her make these corrections by giving her autonomy. Then I said, do you want to do another one without the weight or do you want to try the weight? She goes, I'm going to try the weight.
This is important progression. This happens all the time. You're the fourth person that I had to do this with in the last like 3 weeks. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Just don't high like you did a second. You can do it. You gotta bend your knees up. You can do it. What's the worst thing that's gonna happen? You're gonna land on the floor forward.
See if she does it. I don't remember if she did. Yeah, I spotted her. That's what I did.
You got it.
I remember. Okay, I don't have the other video of it. I don't know if we did it that day. I feel like we went back to, I might not have the video, guys. I feel like we went back to this again.
This is 20.
So, but this is truly a vestibular issue. I also feel like we did more vestibular drills for her. So she
No,
never
it's-
trains
you're not
going
right.
backwards. And because she never trains going backwards, it affects
At least this height.
her ability to jump. Oh, wait, hold on. I thought we did the, yeah. Yeah, so I had to back up with her and do more broad jumps.
Right?
And then we built her confidence up so she could jump onto the block more.
You can jump higher.
And she did go onto the block later, but it wasn't in this session.
Reach up.
There we go. I think it was in another session.
You can jump higher. Okay.
So this is interesting, right? Like how many of you guys have athletes that we always train going forward, but no one trains going backwards? This happens all the time in so many sports. And so what happens is the vestibular component gets trained forward, but they never get trained backwards. So an important component with the squatting and the jump mechanics is in all directions. So make sure you guys train them in all directions. Now you have to give autonomy and listen to the athlete in front of you, because you saw she was just like, no, I can't do it. Like she thought she could, she was ready. And then she decided not to, which is fine. So I think we backed her back down to broad jumps. And I do have a video somewhere where she ended up jumping backwards over onto and off of the block. All right, guys, thank you so much. Jumping backwards on the tumble. Yeah, so jumping backwards on the tumble trampoline is okay, but it's very different than jumping on a hard surface. They need the feedback from jumping on a hard surface. So I do all my plyometric training on a hard surface. And when I say hard surface, the floor mat is actually not hard. They're still soft. So I put them on the floor. You can put them on this surface. You can put them on a soft surface. You need to train all the surfaces. But, you know, putting them on a landing mat and putting them on the floor, jumping forward and backwards is very different than jumping on a trampoline. Trampoline reaction time is delayed. There's a big dish. So I highly recommend doing it on like the regular like blue floor. If you're a gymnast, like regular blue floor, on landing mats. You should train both because landing mats are a little different than the floor. But always train forward, sideways, backwards, and also train turning directions with weights. Now, if they have trouble managing the weights and their form is really bad, take the weights out when you add the half turning and twisting. But once they learn to manage the weights and that straight plane stuff, add the weight, because they have to manage the weight twisting and it throws them off. So it gives them one more thing to control, which then makes their controlling their body in the air much easier. All right, guys, that was wrapping it up for our jump and landing mechanics. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And yes, those are 2/8 bands. That you can find them. So actually I can give you the 2/8 bands. / hold on, let me give you the link, Sean. So I can give you a promo code for the 2-8 bands to get a discount. It's a discount code. The discount will apply if you use this link to go. The discount will apply at the time of checkout. So it's spell out the word 2, the number 8, and then bands is BANDZ.com / perfect, the number 10 PT. And so if you use that, you will get a discount code. Right. So 2, that spell out the word 2, TWO, the number 8, bands, BANDZ.com / perfect, the number 10 PT. And I just put it in the chat for you guys. You'll get a discount code, and it even, Sean, for those of you that are coaches and gym owners, they just recently reopened. They had sold out in them, and they just actually started this whole thing where you can get a team pack. So you can actually, and my code works on the team pack. So you can buy in bulk because you need 4 2-8 bands, 4 green movement ones. You need 4 of them. You need 4 green movement bands in order to make the 2 straps that I cross around the body for 1 athlete. Now you can use them for various heights athletes. You just double them in a couple times to make the band shorter. But I highly recommend 2-8 bands. They don't get cut on your hair. They don't get caught on the hair. They aren't, there's no latex in them. They don't break, and they last a really long time. They have loops all throughout them, so you can use them for a bunch of other things. But right now they do have a special going. They just started it again because they sold out like a couple weeks ago. They have a special going, and this is a new special. They never had it like a month. I think they started a month ago, but it sold out quick. It's for teams, so it's a large kit where you get multiple bands, and it's already at a discount compared to when you buy them individually. And then you can also add my discount. So if you do the 2-8bands.com / perfect, the number 10 PT. And also you can enter a promo code of just perfect, the number 10 PT. If it doesn't pull it up, it should pull that straight directly in there. But it actually will do the discount off of the team band discount. So it gives you a really good deal. So, all right, guys, thanks for joining me this week. If you're new to me, check out my free training at perfect, the number 10 PTacademy.com. That's perfect, the number 10 PTacademy.com, and get my free training. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week. And maybe Sean looks like he wants to do handstand work next week. So we'll check in with everyone next week about handstands. All right, guys, thanks for joining. Have a great week. Bye.